My girlfriend said, "My work husband and I cuddle sometimes. It's platonic. If you can't handle it, that's on you." So I canceled her entire birthday weekend. She showed up to find everything gone, then broke down crying in front of her friends. All right, Reddit, buckle up for this one. My girlfriend told me she spends her afternoons cuddling with her work husband in a dark room at the office. Said it was platonic touch therapy, and if I had a problem with it, that was my insecurity talking. So I agreed with her. She was absolutely right. Then I systematically dismantled the $4,200 birthday weekend I'd spent 3 months planning for her 30th. She found out when the restaurant hostess told her the reservation was canceled under reason. No longer needed. Then she broke down crying in front of all her friends and her precious work husband. Here's exactly how it went down. I'm 31 male, a project manager at a mid-sized construction firm here in Denver. Not the kind of job that sounds impressive at cocktail parties, but it pays well. $87,000 base plus bonuses. And I'm good at what I do. I manage timelines, budgets, subcontractors, logistics, basically making sure commercial buildings get completed on schedule without hemorrhaging money. The skill set translates pretty well to real life, turns out. Maybe too well. I've always been the planning type. Probably comes from watching my dad lose everything when I was a kid. My old man was a general contractor who went bankrupt twice before I turned 16 because he didn't track expenses properly, trusted the wrong people, and never documented anything. I watched him lose our house when I was 14 because a client disputed charges he couldn't prove, and a supplier sued him for unpaid invoices he swore he'd paid but had no receipts for. That experience carved something deep into my brain. I became obsessive about documentation, tracking, planning ahead. My dad used to joke that I'd have a contingency plan for a contingency plan. He wasn't wrong. Every major decision I make gets analyzed from 6 angles. Documented, backed up. Call it boring if you want. I call it survival. I call it making sure I never end up like my dad, 52 years old, starting over from zero, working day labor because nobody would hire a contractor who'd filed bankruptcy twice. So yeah, I'm careful with money. I track expenses in a spreadsheet. I've got 6 months of emergency savings sitting in a high-yield account. I paid off my student debt 3 years ago by living in a tiny apartment and driving a truck I bought used with cash. I finally bought my own place 4 years ago, a 1-bedroom in Capitol Hill that needed work but had good bones. Spent a year renovating it myself on weekends, learning plumbing and electrical from YouTube. Now it's worth $110,000 more than I paid. Not rich, but stable, comfortable, independent. My girlfriend Nicole, 29 female, moved in about a year ago. Though looking back, maybe that was the beginning of the end. We'd been together for 2.5 years total. Met her through mutual friends at a barbecue in Washington Park. She was laughing at something, head thrown back, blonde hair catching the sunlight, and I was hooked immediately. She had this magnetic energy, the kind that made people lean in when she talked, made waiters remember her name, made every room feel like she was the main character, and everyone else was just supporting cast. Nicole worked in marketing at a tech startup downtown, one of those companies with beanbag chairs and kombucha on tap and a ping pong table nobody actually used. She made around $58,000, which was decent but not great for Denver's cost of living. She spent money like she made twice that. Designer handbags she'd find on sale for $400. Brunch every Sunday with her girlfriends that somehow always cost $60. Monthly manicures at the expensive place in Cherry Creek because the cheap salons didn't use quality polish. I didn't mind at first. I made more than her, and if she wanted to treat herself, that was fine. We split rent and utilities 50-50 when she moved in, but I paid for probably 70% of everything else. Dinners out, weekend trips, concert tickets, the new couch she insisted we needed because mine was too bachelor pad. She was fun though, spontaneous in ways I wasn't. She'd suggest random road trips to Vail or last-minute concerts, and I'd usually go along because her enthusiasm was infectious. She made me feel like I wasn't just this boring guy who color-codes his files and sets calendar reminders to rotate his tires. She made me feel interesting by association. Things were good for the first year and a half. We had our routines: Sunday morning farmer's market, Wednesday trivia night at the bar down the street, Saturday morning runs through Wash Park, followed by breakfast burritos. She'd send me memes during the day, random thinking of you texts, little notes in my lunch if she woke up before me. We talked about the future in that casual way couples do. Maybe getting a dog next year, maybe a bigger place eventually, maybe eventually becoming one of those couples who hiked 14ers every summer. I thought we were building something real. I'd even started looking at engagement rings about 6 months ago, though I hadn't pulled the trigger yet. Wanted to make sure we were rock solid first, wanted to have a bigger down payment saved for a house, Wanted to time it right. My mom always said, measure twice, cut once. And that applied to marriage too, right? Looking back, I can see the cracks forming around the 1-year mark. Little things that seemed insignificant at the time, but painted a picture in hindsight. She started talking less about we and us, and more about I and me. Started spending more time on her phone, angling it away when I walked by. Started coming home later from work more often, usually with some explanation about team meetings or project deadlines that, in retrospect, probably weren't real. But I ignored the signs because I wanted to believe we were solid. Because breaking up meant admitting I'd made a bad call, wasted time, got it wrong. And I don't like being wrong. Nicole had been dropping hints for months about wanting a princess treatment birthday when she turned 30. Not subtle hints either. She'd literally send me Instagram stories of other women's elaborate birthday celebrations, with captions like, "This is what I mean," and goals, and when he actually plans ahead. She wanted something that would photograph well, something her friends would envy, something that felt expensive and exclusive, something that would rack up likes and comments and prove she was special. Fine, I'm a project manager. If there's one thing I know how to do, it's execute a complex plan with multiple moving parts. I can manage a birthday weekend. I created a shared Google Doc in early February titled Operation 30 and started planning. Nicole thought the code name was adorable, kept making jokes about it being like a spy mission. She had no idea how much actual logistics I was coordinating. The document had tabs for each day, budget breakdowns, backup options, contact information for every vendor, confirmation numbers, deposit amounts, cancellation policies. I approached it like I was managing a construction project, because that's what I do. I make complicated things happen on schedule and under budget. The centerpiece was Friday dinner at Elysian, this impossible-to-book restaurant in Lodo that had opened 8 months ago and immediately became the hottest table in Denver. The chef had worked at some Michelin-starred place in New York before moving west, and people were waiting 6 to 8 weeks for reservations. I started calling in January, got on the wait list, and finally got through by name-dropping a client of ours who designed their kitchen equipment. Called in that favor directly. The reservation required a $500 non-refundable deposit just to hold the table for 6 people. They had a strict cancellation policy. Cancel more than 72 hours out and you lose the deposit. Cancel within 72 hours and you're charged 50% of the estimated meal cost. I'd studied their menu, estimated we'd spend about $1,200 on dinner, so canceling last minute would cost me the $500 deposit plus another $600 penalty. The restaurant didn't play games. Saturday was a full-day spa experience at Serenity Wellness, this boutique place in Cherry Creek that Nicole had been lusting after for a year. Couples massage, private eucalyptus steam room, seaweed body wraps, facials, the full luxury treatment. I booked the indulgence package for Nicole and her best friend Amanda. 6 hours of pampering, champagne included, overlooking the mountains. Cost: $950 total with a $300 deposit required at booking. Non-refundable if canceled within 2 weeks. Then came Saturday night's surprise. I'd booked the executive suite at the Oxford Hotel downtown. Not just any room. The suite with the clawfoot tub, the separate sitting room, the original 1891 architecture, the whole romantic setup. I'd arranged with the hotel to have champagne waiting, rose petals on the bed, that ridiculous over-the-top stuff you see in movies. Nicole had sent me a video months ago of some influencer's anniversary setup at a fancy hotel with the caption, "I want this energy for my birthday." So I delivered. The suite was $650 for the night, required full prepayment, non-refundable. They'd even charged me an extra $120 for the rose petals and champagne setup. Sunday was brunch at Mercantile with her close friend group. I'd reserved their private back room for 8 people, which required a $200 deposit and a $500 minimum food and beverage spend. Easy enough. With Nicole's friends, hitting $500 would take about 30 minutes. Running total, $500, Elysian deposit, plus $950, SPA, plus $770, hotel and setup, plus $200, brunch deposit, equals $2,420 in committed costs, not counting the actual meals, tips, and transportation. But that wasn't everything. I'd also bought her main present 2 weeks earlier, a vintage Cartier necklace she'd circled in a jewelry catalog back in December. She'd left the catalog on the coffee table, page folded, with the necklace circled in red ink. Subtle. The necklace cost $1,850, which made me wince, but I figured 30 was a milestone birthday. And this was the woman I was planning to eventually propose to. You take care of the people you love. Grand total committed, $4,270. And that wasn't counting the cost of the actual meals. flowers I was planning to have delivered Friday morning, a cake I'd ordered from her favorite bakery, or the gas for driving around all weekend. But I didn't care about the money. I make good money. I save aggressively. I can afford to drop $4,500 on a birthday weekend without it affecting my financial security. And more importantly, this was supposed to be the woman I married. You don't get cheap on the person you're building a life with. What I didn't know, what I was completely oblivious to, while I was coordinating spa appointments and hotel turn-down services and backup restaurant options, was that Nicole was building her own relationship with Kyle. Kyle was the work husband. That term makes my skin crawl now, but at the time I tried to be understanding about it. The concept started innocently enough about 7 months ago, back in October. "Oh, there's this new guy Kyle in marketing," Nicole mentioned casually over dinner one night. "He's actually pretty smart once you get past the awkward small talk phase. Knows his stuff about analytics." I didn't think anything of it. She worked with lots of people. Then it progressed to, "Kyle brought me coffee this morning. Isn't that sweet? He remembered I like oat milk." Still innocent. Coworkers do nice things. Then, "Kyle really gets the pressure of this industry. He's one of the only people there who actually understands what I'm dealing with." That's when my radar started pinging, but I pushed it down. I'm not naturally jealous. I've got female friends from work. I grab lunch with coworkers regardless of gender. I understand workplace friendships are normal and healthy, but boundaries started dissolving in ways that made my gut tighten, even if I couldn't articulate exactly why. The late-night texts started around December, just as I was getting serious about Operation 30. I'd be in bed at 10:30 p.m., trying to sleep before my 6 a.m. alarm, and her phone would light up the nightstand with a notification tone that she'd set to a specific sound. Not her default chime, but something different. That alone should have been a red flag. "Work emergency?" I'd ask groggily. "No, just Kyle," she'd say, fingers already flying across the screen, her face illuminated by the blue glow. "He's going through some stuff with his girlfriend. Just being supportive." At 10:30 at night? Can't it wait until morning? She'd give me this look, the one that said I was being unreasonable, unsupportive, controlling. "He's sensitive, Ethan. He's not like you. He doesn't bottle things up and pretend everything's fine. We have an emotional connection. It's intellectual. Why are you making this weird?" There it was, the phrase that would become her shield for everything. Emotional connection. And if I dared question it, I was the one with the problem. I was sexualizing a normal friendship. I was not understanding healthy emotional intimacy. I had toxic masculinity issues and needed to work on my insecurity. Nicole had recently gotten really into social media wellness content. Her feed was full of these accounts with names like Healing Vibes and Therapy Talk and Conscious Living. She'd spend hours scrolling through posts about emotional regulation and somatic healing and toxic relationship patterns. She learned just enough psychology terminology to weaponize it. Every boundary I tried to set became a referendum on my emotional health. If I asked her to maybe limit the late-night texting with Kyle, I was being controlling and unable to handle her having male friends. If I expressed discomfort with their frequent one-on-one lunches, I was projecting my insecurity and displaying possessive behavior patterns. If I suggested their relationship seemed more intimate than professional, I had attachment issues that I needed to address. The lunches really bothered me, though I tried not to let it show. 3 times a week minimum, sometimes 4, she'd mention casually over breakfast or via text. "Grabbing lunch with Kyle today." Not with her team, not with the marketing department, just Kyle. One-on-one extended lunches where they'd apparently discuss industry trends and career development and the state of modern work culture. "Doesn't Kyle have other friends at work?" I asked once, trying to keep my voice light and conversational. "God, why are you so threatened by him?" she snapped back. "He's just a friend. We talk about work stuff. You're being controlling." Controlling. That was her favorite word for any boundary I tried to set. If I asked her to maybe not text him after 10 p.m., I was controlling. If I suggested lunch 3 times a week was a bit much, I was insecure and controlling. I let it slide because I didn't want to be that guy. The jealous boyfriend who can't handle his girlfriend having male friends. I wanted to be evolved, understanding, secure in our relationship. I was an idiot. The shift happened 5 days before her birthday. I'd just picked up her main present, a vintage Cartier necklace she'd circled in a catalog months ago. Cost me $1,800, but her face would be worth it. I came home to find her on the balcony, phone pressed to her ear, voice dropped to that intimate whisper people use when they're sharing secrets. When I slid the glass door open, she physically jumped. She ended the call immediately. "Who was that?" I asked. setting the gift bag in the closet. Just Kyle, she said, not meeting my eyes. He's having a crisis. He seems to have a lot of crises when I'm not around. You wouldn't understand. She walked past me into the kitchen. You're emotionally rigid. Kyle feels things deeply. He needs someone in his corner. I didn't push it. Her birthday was in 5 days, and I'd spent 3 months planning the perfect weekend. I told myself to just get through it, give her the celebration she'd been dreaming about, and then maybe we could have a real conversation about boundaries, about respect, about what it means to be in a committed relationship. Looking back, I should have known better. The bomb dropped on a Tuesday night, 5 days before her birthday. I'd left work early to prep dinner, making risotto from scratch, her absolute favorite dish. I'd stopped at the fancy grocery store to get the good arborio rice, fresh parmesan, the exact white wine she liked. I was planning to use dinner as an opportunity to reconnect before the birthday weekend madness, maybe have a conversation about us that didn't revolve around party logistics. I was standing at the stove, wooden spoon in hand, adding broth one ladle at a time while the rice absorbed it. The kitchen smelled amazing. Garlic, butter, wine, cheese. This dish takes patience. You can't rush risotto, or it turns into a gluey mess. You have to add the broth slowly, stirring constantly, letting each addition absorb before adding more. It's meditative if you're in the right headspace. Nicole was sitting at the kitchen island with a glass of white wine I'd poured for her, scrolling through her phone with this soft, private smile I hadn't seen directed at me in months, maybe ever. The kind of smile that makes your stomach drop, because you know, instinctively, that it's not for you. She'd giggle at something on her screen, type rapidly, smile again, completely absorbed. How was work? I asked, keeping my voice casual while measuring out more broth. Intense, she said, still not looking up from her phone. Kyle had a panic attack in the break room this afternoon. Is he okay? I asked, trying to inject some genuine concern into my voice, even though I was getting real tired of hearing about Kyle's constant crises. He is now. She finally looked up at me, and there was something challenging in her expression. Something defiant, like she was daring me to react, testing me to see if I'd take the bait. I stayed with him. We went to that quiet room in the back office, you know, the one they use for nursing mothers. I turned off the lights and we just laid on the couch. We cuddled for about an hour until his breathing regulated and he felt safe again. I stopped stirring. The wooden spoon hovered over the pan, forgotten. The kitchen suddenly felt very quiet except for the gentle simmer of rice, which was now in danger of burning because I'd completely frozen. I'm sorry, I said slowly, carefully, keeping my voice steady even though my heart was suddenly hammering against my ribs. Did you just say you cuddled him? On a couch? In the dark? For an hour? She rolled her eyes. Actually rolled her eyes like I was being ridiculous. Oh my God, Ethan. Here we go. Yes, we cuddled. It's called co-regulation. It's a somatic technique used to lower someone's cortisol levels through safe physical contact. It was completely platonic. It wasn't sexual. It was therapeutic. I turned off the burner before I ruined dinner. Turned to face her fully, wooden spoon still in my hand like some kind of useless weapon. Nicole, you're a 29-year-old woman in a committed relationship. You spent an hour lying in the dark in another man's arms. At your workplace. In a room they use for nursing mothers. You genuinely don't see any problem with that? No, I don't, she shot back immediately, voice rising with that defensive edge she got whenever I questioned literally anything. Because I'm an adult who understands that touch is a basic human need. Physical comfort isn't inherently sexual, Ethan. Kyle was in distress. He was hyperventilating. His heart rate was elevated. I provided comfort using established somatic techniques. It wasn't sexual. He didn't try anything. Neither did I. We just held each other in a safe space until his nervous system calmed down. It's actually really mature that I can provide that without making it weird. If I told you, I said quietly, setting the spoon down on the counter with exaggerated care, that I spent my afternoon spooning with the new intern in our office because she was having anxiety about her workload, you'd be okay with that? She scoffed. Actually scoffed like the comparison was absurd. That's completely different. Men always make it sexual. Everything is about sex for you guys. With you, it would be predatory, because that's how male-female dynamics work. With me and Kyle, it's different. We have a spiritual connection, a soul-level understanding. We communicate on a frequency that's purely emotional and intellectual. Honestly, she set her wine glass down and leaned forward. I feel safer with him emotionally than I do with you half the time. He doesn't judge me. He doesn't question my needs. He accepts me exactly as I am. She stood up then, walking around the island to stand directly in front of me, close enough that I could smell her perfume, see the wine stain on her lips, notice the slight flush in her cheeks. Whether from the wine or the argument, I couldn't tell. She looked at me with genuine pity, like I was some primitive creature, some emotionally stunted caveman who couldn't possibly grasp her evolved understanding of human connection and intimacy. My work husband and I cuddle sometimes, she said slowly, deliberately, enunciating each word like she was explaining basic math to a child. It's platonic. It's healing. It's what emotionally intelligent people do to support each other. If you don't get it, if you're too insecure or too trapped in toxic masculinity to handle me providing emotional support to a friend who needs it, then that's your issue. That's something you need to work on. Maybe with a professional. I'm not going to shrink myself. I'm not going to limit my capacity for connection and empathy just to soothe your fragile ego and outdated ideas about relationships. I looked at her. Really looked at her. I looked at this woman I'd spent almost 3 years building a life with. This woman I'd been planning to propose to. This woman whose 30th birthday I'd spent 3 months and over $4,000 planning down to the last detail. And I thought about the fact that she just spent an hour in the dark, in another man's arms, at her workplace. And she was telling me I was the problem for not celebrating it. Something clicked in my brain, like a circuit breaker tripping. The background noise of the apartment, the simmer of the risotto, the hum of the refrigerator, all just faded away. You're absolutely right, I said calmly. She blinked, surprised. What? You're right. If I don't understand, that's my issue. And it is my issue. I nodded slowly. So I'm going to fix it. She smiled, thinking she'd won. Good. I'm glad you're finally... I'm ending the relationship. The smile died. What? We're done, Nicole. You can stay here tonight if you need to, but I want you out by this weekend. I'll help you move your stuff if you need help, but we're over. Her face went through about 5 different expressions. Confusion, disbelief, anger, panic, before settling on rage. Are you serious right now? Over this? Over me being a good friend? Over you spending an hour cuddling another man in the dark and telling me I'm insecure for having a problem with it? Yeah. This is insane. You're overreacting. It was one time, and it was for his mental health. How many times have you had lunch with him this month? She opened her mouth, closed it. That's different. How many late-night texts? We're friends, Ethan. Friends don't cuddle in the dark, Nicole. Partners do that. And you chose to do it with someone who isn't your partner, while telling your actual partner he's broken for caring. I grabbed my keys and my phone. I'm going to stay at my buddy's place tonight. I'll text you tomorrow about getting your stuff packed. Please be gone by Saturday. Where are you going? She shouted as I headed for the door. We need to talk about this. We just did, I said, and left. I drove to my friend Liam's apartment. He took one look at my face and said, What happened? Nicole's been cuddling with her work husband in dark rooms at the office. Told me it's platonic touch therapy. I ended it. Jesus, you need anything? A couch for the night and maybe help moving her stuff this weekend? Done. Liam had been my friend since college. He'd been through his own messy breakup 2 years ago. He got it. That night we ordered pizza, played video games, and he didn't try to give me advice or tell me what I should have done differently. He just let me be pissed off. But I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Operation 30, about all those reservations, all those deposits, all that planning for someone who was emotionally checking out while I was checking restaurant reviews. Around 2 a.m., I pulled out my phone and opened my email. First message, to Elysian Restaurant. I need to cancel my reservation for 6 people on Friday, May 19th, under the name Ethan Cooper. I understand the deposit is non-refundable. I'm happy to forfeit the $500. Reason for cancellation? No longer needed. Thank you. Second message, to the spa. Please cancel the couple's spa day scheduled for Nicole Reynolds and Amanda Chen on Saturday, May 20th. I understand we'll lose the $800 deposit. That's fine. Reason, service no longer needed. Third message, to the Oxford Hotel. Canceling the suite reservation for May 20th to 21st. I understand the room rate of $650 is non-refundable. Please proceed with the cancellation. Reason, change of plans. Fourth message, to Mercantile. Please cancel Sunday brunch reservation for 6 on May 21st. I understand the $200 deposit is non-refundable. No problem. Reason, plans changed. Total loss, $2,150 in non-refundable deposits. I didn't care. I'd just discovered my girlfriend was building an emotional affair while I was building her dream birthday. The money was the least of what I'd lost. I also returned the necklace the next day. The jewelry store had a 30-day return policy, thank God. Got my $1,800 back, minus a 15% restocking fee. Cost me $270, but I'd rather lose that than let her wear something I'd bought thinking we had a future. Wednesday morning, Nicole started texting. The messages went from angry to confused to panicked as the day went on. We need to talk about this like adults. You're being completely irrational. I can't believe you're throwing away 3 years over nothing. Can you at least call me? I didn't respond. I was at work, managing an actual crisis. A supplier delay that was threatening to push back our entire timeline on a commercial project. Funny how real problems put relationship drama in perspective. By Wednesday afternoon, the texts shifted. Fine, if you want to be childish, that's your choice. But we still need to coordinate for Friday. What time should everyone meet at your place before we head to Elysian? I stared at that message for a solid minute. She genuinely thought the birthday weekend was still happening. She thought I'd ended our relationship but would still fund her celebration. I replied with exactly 4 words. There is no Friday. What does that mean? It means I canceled everything. The restaurant, the spa, the hotel, the brunch, all of it. My phone immediately started ringing. I declined the call. It rang again. Declined. Then came the barrage. You did what? You can't just cancel my birthday plans. Those reservations were for me. You're going to ruin everything because you're being petty? I have friends coming. Amanda rearranged her entire schedule. This is emotional abuse. That last one almost made me laugh. I'm emotionally abusive for not funding a birthday party for my ex-girlfriend who cuddled with another man and told me to get over it. The mental gymnastics were impressive. I sent one more text. The deposits are non-refundable, so I'm out about $2,150. Consider it a parting gift. Have a great 30th birthday. We're done communicating. Then I blocked her number. Friday night arrived. I was at Liam's place, him, me, and our buddy Trevor playing poker and watching the Nuggets game. My phone was off. I was drinking soda, eating chips, and honestly feeling pretty good about my life choices. What I didn't know, but learned later from Amanda, who felt guilty enough to tell me, was that Nicole's birthday evening was unfolding as a complete disaster. According to Amanda, Nicole had told her friends all week that despite our rough patch, everything was still on for Friday. She'd gotten dressed up, took the pre-dinner photos for Instagram, caption, 30 and thriving, and showed up at Elysian with Amanda, 2 other friends from work, and Kyle. Yes, Kyle was there, as her friend who's been so supportive. The hostess asked for the reservation name. Nicole gave it confidently. Cooper, party of 6. The hostess checked her system. Checked again. I'm sorry, that reservation was canceled on Wednesday morning. Nicole's face apparently went white. What? No, that's impossible. There must be a mistake. No mistake. The cancellation email is right here. Reason listed. No longer needed. There's a note that the deposit was forfeited. Amanda said Nicole just stood there, frozen, while her friends started asking what was going on. Kyle, trying to be helpful, suggested calling me. Nicole said she couldn't. I'd blocked her. That's when it clicked for everyone. That's when her friends realized that I'd actually canceled everything. The spa day tomorrow. The hotel. The brunch. All of it. He canceled my birthday, Nicole said. And according to Amanda, she said it with such bewilderment, like she genuinely couldn't comprehend that actions have consequences. Then she started crying. Not quiet crying. Full breakdown in the middle of an upscale restaurant lobby, while other diners walked past, trying not to stare. Her friends were frantically trying to find another restaurant that could accommodate 6 people on a Friday night with no reservation. Impossible. They ended up at some chain restaurant on 16th Street, and Nicole cried through most of dinner while Kyle awkwardly patted her shoulder and her friends shot him dirty looks. Amanda texted me Sunday. I know we're not really friends, but I thought you should know. Nicole spent the whole weekend crying. She didn't understand why you actually went through with it. She thought you were bluffing. I read that text sitting in my living room, which now had all of Nicole's stuff in boxes by the door. She'd come by Saturday while I was at work to pack, left her key on the counter. I didn't respond to Amanda. There was nothing to say, but I wasn't done. Because while Nicole was crying at her ruined birthday dinner, I'd sent one more email Friday night around 9 p.m. to jessica.morrison.217@gmail.com. Subject, Tuesday afternoon. Hi Jessica, you don't know me. I'm Ethan, Nicole Reynolds' now ex-boyfriend. Nicole told me last Tuesday that she spent an hour cuddling with your husband Kyle in a dark room at their office for emotional regulation and co-regulation therapy. She insisted this was completely normal and platonic. I disagreed, which is why she's now my ex. I figured you deserve to know how your husband spends his Tuesday afternoons, just in case you and Kyle don't share the same definition of platonic. Best, Ethan. I'd found Jessica on Facebook easily enough. Her profile was public, full of pictures of her and Kyle, their wedding from 2 years ago, posts about their anniversary. She seemed nice. She didn't deserve to be in the dark about what her husband was doing at work. The fallout was nuclear. I learned the details Monday afternoon from Trevor, who worked in the same building as Nicole's company. The office gossip chain is real, and it's efficient. Apparently, Kyle didn't defend Nicole. He didn't stand by their spiritual connection. He didn't leave his wife for his soulmate. Kyle panicked. When Jessica confronted him Sunday night with my email, Kyle went into full survival mode. He claimed Nicole was obsessed with him. He said she was the one who cornered him, that he was uncomfortable but didn't know how to say no because of office dynamics. To save his marriage, Kyle threw Nicole directly under the bus, backed up, and ran her over again for good measure. Then he went to HR first thing Monday morning. By the time Nicole walked into the office, she wasn't greeted by her sympathetic work husband. She was greeted by a meeting invite from the Director of Human Resources. Kyle had filed a formal complaint against her for inappropriate workplace conduct and creating a hostile environment. She was placed on administrative leave pending investigation. Trevor texted me updates throughout the day. Dude, she just got escorted out of the building. She was crying. Kyle wouldn't even look at her. On Monday afternoon, I got an email from Nicole's work address. Since I'd blocked her personal accounts, she'd used her corporate email. Subject, you ruined my life. Ethan, are you happy now? Kyle isn't speaking to me. HR escorted me out of the building like I'm some kind of criminal. His wife called me awful things I won't repeat. You didn't just break up with me. You destroyed my reputation, my job, my friendships, everything. I lost my boyfriend, my best friend at work, and probably my career. All in one weekend. All because you couldn't handle me being close to someone else. How can you be this vindictive? I thought you loved me, Nicole. I read it twice. Then I moved it to trash. Didn't reply. I wasn't vindictive. I was a mirror. I reflected back exactly what she'd built. She wanted Kyle? She got the real Kyle. A coward who used her for emotional validation and threw her away the moment it became inconvenient. She wanted to prioritize their connection? Fine. Now she could see what that connection was actually worth when it was tested. Over the next 6 weeks, updates trickled in through the few mutual friends I hadn't cut off. Nicole was fired. Mutual separation was the official story, but everyone knew what it really meant. Her friends, the ones who'd been at that Friday dinner, started distancing themselves. It's hard to defend someone who gets caught having an emotional affair, gets her work husband to file a harassment complaint, and loses her job all in the span of a week. She couldn't afford the rent on the apartment she'd moved to, needed a roommate, ended up in some place in Aurora with 2 other people. Her Instagram went quiet. The 30 and thriving post got deleted. Kyle and Jessica stayed together apparently, though Trevor mentioned Jessica made him quit and find a new job, probably for the best. As for me, I was doing great. The $2,150 I'd lost in deposits hurt at first, but my bank account recovered quickly without funding princess weekends. I was sleeping well. I started rock climbing on weekends, something I'd stopped doing because Nicole thought it was too dangerous. I hung out with Liam and Trevor more, focused on work, got promoted to senior project manager with a $15,000 raise. 3 months after the breakup, I met someone new. Claire, an architect. We met at a construction site. She was designing a mixed-use development my company was building. She was direct, professional, didn't play games. On our 3rd date, I told her the Nicole story. Not to trauma dump, just to be honest about where I was coming from. Good for you, Claire said simply. Boundaries matter. People who can't respect them don't deserve access to you. No therapy speak, no accusations of insecurity. Just a straightforward acknowledgement that I'd done the right thing. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel and help us bring you more and better stories. Thanks.